Welcome back to Tech Gumbo here as we advance into the Christmas season. You're listening to Tech Gumbo on Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Brought to you by Gulf South Technology Solutions. You can reach us at
225-216-2169
or on the web,
gulfsouthtech.com.
Gulf South Technology Solutions for all your business computer and network and IT needs. At Gulf South Tech, we give you the right solution.
Right response.
Right now. And I'm Haggai Davis, joined by my oldest son and guest host for the week,
Haggai Davis III.
Welcome, Haggai. Welcome back again to Tech Gumbo.
Feeling jolly today.
Good deal. One more time, I want to remind everybody, please go to pulse.techgumbo.net. Give us that instant feedback. Let us know what you're thinking. Vote up, vote down. Do it now. We have with us today Matt Hester, Senior Partner Technology Strategist from Microsoft. He's going to join us for a second segment. Sticking around. There's so much fun stuff to talk about with Microsoft. So, Matt, thanks for sticking around for a second segment.
Oh, not a problem. Thanks for keeping me around. I must have done all right.
Yeah. I've known Matt met you, 2-3 months ago, and not been shy ever since then. So
it's getting me to be quiet. It's the hard part. Come on now.
So I've heard. Okay, so Matt, let's start off with the cloud. Everybody's that's the big buzzword here recently is all about the cloud. What's Microsoft's vision for why someone wants to go to the cloud?
Well, I think from a standpoint, especially when I think about the small businesses and the customers that we both support, the cloud just provides a lot of, first off, just a savings in cost. It's going to help provide the financial savings. In addition, it's going to open up a lot of capabilities of having things stored inside of the cloud, provides some small businesses the ability to have a disaster recovery environment where they may not have had before. Seeing some of those servers where small customers had that, don't turn off the button main file server. What if that file server went down or a fire occurred in that business or something else happened? The nice thing about having cloud technologies involved with that is that your information is going to be safe in a server that's far away from it. So it opens a lot of scenarios up for our customers to not only do things that they couldn't do possibly with their existing business model today, but also things at a cheaper cost. And then not spend as much money to be able to get the same kind of functionality that they have today.
And one of the great things about, especially the Microsoft Azure platform that we love here at Gulf South Tech, is you don't have to move everything to the cloud, and you don't have to leave everything on premise. You can do a hybrid environment. You can do a little of both.
Yeah, and I think that's one of our key strategies. When we think about all of our competitors that are out in the cloud space today, and there's a few that are out there, we don't lock you in. I mean, Microsoft came up with a term a few years ago that I really like from a marketing standpoint, cloud on your terms. And even though we think most businesses are going to go cloud first when they're looking at starting a business or using technology, I think ultimately we really want the customers to decide what works best for them. And we obviously to help them avoid any fear, uncertainty, or doubt or FUD that may come up, to make sure they understand what our cloud technologies can do for them. But it's also if they don't want to go to the cloud, if for some reason they choose, hey, look, I don't want to go to the cloud, we have some great solutions for on-premises as well. So we can really do a lot of great things to help those customers really solve whatever the problem they're trying to do, whether it uses cloud technologies or not, or a combination, like you mentioned, with hybrid technologies.
Right. And, certainly Office 365 is just the way to go for any kind of email format. I mean, having an on-premise Exchange server nowadays just doesn't make sense for anybody that I've come across. And so when you mix in, the Office 365 for your email, then if you want, your server on-premise for your Active Directory, but you want some application server in the Azure cloud, it just works so well.
Yeah, and I think what really makes that all tie together is people's identity and being able to sync those up and forth the cloud depending on what we want to do from on-prem. What's getting even more exciting with a lot of our technologies that we're doing in cloud, I would look at Microsoft from a standpoint, one thing that we do really well, especially compared to our competitors, is Active Directory, where our identities are stored, where our usernames and passwords are stored. And when you think about what's behind Office 365, which is Azure's Active Directory service, which, by the way, don't be confused, it's not the same as having an on-prem Active Directory server, but it's getting better in what it can do from an identity management. We're moving very quickly to a world, Haggai, and it's exciting. We're not quite there yet as a company. We're inching closer to where customers may not need an on-prem server for just Active Directory anymore. So if you have a small customer, or if you're listening now and you have an Active Directory domain box with a file share on premise, and that's the only reason you have the AD box is for that file share, you may have some exciting possibilities where you could possibly get rid of all your on-prem tech aside from your desktop clients or however you integrate with your actual technology. And it's going to be, really powered by the identity of how we can get to that in a secure, private, encrypted fashion. And a lot of those technologies are already there. It's been part of our DNA. If you think about Active Directory, we've had it around since, Windows Server 2000. So it's something we've gotten very good at around that identity in the cloud and making sure things are safe.
You brought up security and encryption, and as businesses start to move into the cloud, one of the things is making sure that their data is still secure. What are some of the things that Microsoft does in order to make sure that data is protected for their customers?
Well, we do quite a few things, and whenever this conversation comes up, and right now a lot of you can go and read it because I don't know any more than what's on the public articles, we're actually fighting. I shouldn't say fighting. We're actually in litigation with the U.S. government around the privacy of our customers' data. We have a customer with data that's in a foreign data center, and Microsoft and the government said, "Hey, we want that data," and we said no as a company.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that case here on Tech Gumbo before. It being, it was a Hotmail server, and the server was in Ireland, and it's a very public case, and I think it's just made it into the appellate courts. It hadn't made it to the Supremes yet, but it's on its way there.
Yeah, and I think I know Amazon, I think Apple. I don't know if Google did, but they all wrote letters on behalf. So we have some of our biggest competitors. You have some of our biggest competitors saying, "Let Microsoft win." So whenever I hear that conversation around security and privacy, I point to that. The second one was, and more direct to your conversation, at a real high level, we secure the data in rest and in transit and in storage. So we really make sure that data is secure. Now, we don't disclose all of our methods, but essentially when you put data into our cloud, it's on a BitLocker-enabled drive for that. Now, if you have customers that are government, we actually have a special part of our cloud services that is for government only. That's a whole nother level of security. So it really depends, but we do secure the level of data in transit, in motion on individual desktops. So we do have secure connections all the way through the board, and we do a lot to protect it. We don't disclose a lot of the stuff that we do for obvious reasons, but we do a lot to protect your data no matter where it happens to be in our cloud services.
And that was actually one of the news articles we talked about in the first segment before you came on. Microsoft spends as much in R&D for security as Symantec does.
Oh, wow.
And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of startling that, here, Symantec's supposed to be this big security company, and Microsoft is going toe-to-toe with them as far as R&D spending. So, I mean, kudos to Microsoft for taking security that serious.
Yeah, and I think we've come a long way. I mean, you all have been in the industry long enough to know that, when we first started, what NT's default, I think NT 351's default file share permissions was everyone full control. We're a long way from that, and we're really changing the perceptions of what we can do to help secure your data. And I don't hear it as much anymore. It comes up more when we get into that cloud because people can't actually see the server that their data is residing on. But there's a lot of things that we do to make sure your data is protected. And one of our key guys, especially in Azure, Mark Rasinovich, is not only extremely smart from cloud technology, he's very focused on how do we secure things. He's written actually several fictional novels based on potential real-world scenarios around breaches and security. So we have somebody who's thinking about this 24/7 to protect your data and our data.
And really, it's very comforting for me, at Gulf South when we're sitting out there with a client and we can talk to them about having their information stored in a cloud-based environment and it being just as safe as if it was sitting on the server in their office, because that's what Microsoft does. I mean, it takes security to another level, and it really, really treats it. I mean, in the customer's mind, they need to understand if they have a server on the Azure platform or a server in their office, the information is just as secure and it's just as available either place.
Yep. And when you think about all the regulations that we actually meet and standards and compliancy standards that we meet with our cloud technologies, it really puts a lot of customers at ease, but it comes back to that cloud on your terms. I would not be surprised if you have customers today that have internal policies or external policies that prevent them from moving to the cloud for whatever reason. And hey, let's talk about that. And sometimes there are very legitimate reasons And once again, we have the technologies to help them, and they can use those same technologies to implement those security as well.
Very good.
The biggest thing I think you all probably talked about is getting customers to the Trust Center, seeing what we do at a very high level, whether it's Office 365 or Azure, to protect your data and really make sure things are safe and secure.
Matt, I want to thank you very much for spending 2 segments with us this afternoon. Really, really appreciate you. Love Microsoft, obviously, and thanks for your time.
No, thanks for having me on. I'd love to come back anytime you guys need me to come back. I'd love to talk about technology, so I appreciate having me on.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm Haggai Davis, along with my co-host, Haggai III, thanking you for joining us here on Tech Gumbo, brought to you by Gulf South Technology Solutions. Gulf South Tech for all your business, computer network, IT needs. Gulf South Tech will give you the right solution, the right response right now. You've been listening to Tech Gumbo on Talk 107.3.